So what I'd like you to do is take no more than a minute and each go around the room. We'll start with you, Marnie, and we'll just go this way around. And what I'd like to know from each of you is very quickly why you're running, not with the superlatives, but specifically what policy issues you see that are important and where you stand on them. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, go for it.
Marnie Sheehan Carter, and I'm running for council. The policies or the platforms that I'm looking at supporting are based upon continuing our affordable housing efforts in the city of Concord, encouraging those to invest in our community and build our neighborhood. I'm also looking at the city to do more partnership with our small business owners and to do more to invest in the children of our community in terms of community services. They are our future workforce in the city of Concord, and ensuring that they have adequate resources to reinvest in the city. Thank you.
Dan.
Ready?
Yeah.
My name is Dan Helix. My primary interest is the development of the weapons station. I've been involved in that since 2004. I served on the Governor's Committee. I was co-chair of the Citizens Committee. I think it's a jewel. I think it's a huge opportunity. I want to use it to help finance the city's need for revenue on a long-term basis. I have a plan for that. I think we can do more. I want to see us get the port facilities out there. The military doesn't need it. I think it could be the port of Concord, and along with Martinez, Concord, Pittsburgh, and Antioch, we can have a huge opportunity out there to do something great. That's really my primary focus. That's what I'm interested in, and that's what I'll be working on.
Carol?
Okay, I'm Carol Longshore, and my primary focus is to encourage the history and heritage of our town. We don't have a museum, the biggest town in the valley that has no museum, and we're working on that, and I'm hoping to help speed that along as far as walking hand in hand with the Historical Society that's been working with the city for quite a while to do that. I also am very interested that the daycare facilities are all being taken care of well. The seniors are happy with their center and moving along, and I'm very excited to get involved in possibly really looking at some of the red tape and the paperwork and seeing if we can't make it a little bit smaller. So that's my primary interest.
Eddie?
Hi, I'm Ed Bursan, and I'm running for council, and there's three main policy issues that we can talk at the moment. One, the political structure. I want to see
Is the what? I'm sorry.
A political structure. I want to see changes in the transparency so that when we appoint someone to a position, in a concurrent opening, we take the runner-up if it has at least 20% of the vote. I would like to discuss direct elected of mayor. I would like to end the lifetime medical payments for a part-time 5-year service on the city council, as well as their regular medical coverage, because we don't afford it to any part-timer in the city. On an economic basis, I totally support the Army in the title area. I'm on the title Restoration Advisory Board, and I am involved in terms of the movement of ammunition and explosives. The Army has a plan to spend close to $200 million to expand it and bring about 800 jobs to us, and I support that. It is a critical base. It is the largest ammunition port on the West Coast, and there is no place that it can be replaced. The third one on economics, I want to make the city more business friendly. I believe that you don't need permits to follow the law. You need a permit to break the law. And want to see revisions of both the sign permit and the attitude of government towards small businesses straight through the community. And finally, I would like to see more of the community involvement in the neighborhoods, having more direct say and involvement with the city government and the city council, which includes bringing local stations, which will include police and other services, to the communities, so that the city is represented right there within walking distance of most of our citizens.
Okay, you said 3 issues, and I'm so far counting 5.
Well, I'm exercising a little bit of creative counting in that regard.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure, and that's not how you do budgets, right?
No, budgets
Okay.
usually works the other way around.
Okay, fair enough, just checking. Tim?
All right, so my name's Tim McGallion. The biggest issues for me are, of course, economic development. Being a part of the Chamber of Commerce for many years is something that we're trying to help businesses grow, make it business friendly. Of course, looking at the Concord Web Station as a huge opportunity, but not forgetting that we also have a lot of other opportunities right now that we can work on that we need to make sure that we're not forgetting about. When you have over 1 million square feet of office space that's open, we need to, from a city council level, we need to do everything we can to roll out the red carpet to these companies and be extremely proactive in trying to get these larger employers to locate here in Concord and try to get that economic vitality back in the city of Concord. And so it's kind of short-term, long-term approach. There's a lot of things we can do at the Concord Weapons Station, and I don't want to downplay that. And I think there's a lot of other build-out, a lot of other economic development, looking at some emerging technologies that might want to look at locating out there. We need to go out and find out what those solutions are going to be. Community revitalization. We need to make sure that we don't forget that music in the park is a huge economic driver for the downtown. It's something that if we lost that, we would see a pretty big impact to those businesses in that area. But it's also a way of life. That's something that supports our families, supports our seniors, and it's something that, quite frankly, we can brag about the city of Concord, because that's something that everyone is pretty excited about having. So we need to do everything we can to support that. And then the last one is kind of tying it all together, is making sure that we continue to support our public safety. And that's something that, public safety is kind of the third leg to the stool, pretty much, to where if that is able to, we're able to create a safe community, people want to locate here, they want to buy houses here, they want to put their businesses here, and it's something that just kind of helps support that entire vision. So.
Okay. Vernon?
Hi, I'm Vernon Krupieski. I'm running for City Council. One of the main issues I have is making sure our community stays safe, especially when the new development goes out in the weapons station. I want to make sure that the old Concord don't get lost into the new Concord. Make sure that we take care of the community we already have, that we don't walk all over our community, our existing community, just to make the new one work. Such as putting a lot of traffic in the areas that don't have the traffic right now, which would upset a lot of the community in that area. I want to make sure, once again, that our city keeps the beautification part, make sure our businesses don't get lost in the new businesses that will be put out there, because they'll be modern businesses and they'll take from the businesses we already have here, and I want to make sure that we don't let that happen.
With the development.
With the new development out there.
Okay. Suzanne.
My name's Suzanne Davis-Lucy, and I have been a conservator public guardian for Contra Costa County for 5.5 years now, and as a result of having that duty, I participated as a City of Concord Commissioner for the Aging and volunteer for the Contra Costa Council for the Aging with the Social Service Department. And my concern about our cities as a whole and the policy of what's happening, as we're seeing our aging seniors as a silver tsunami, we have to come up with creative and progressive ways to meet the needs not only of our seniors, but how to keep the vitality of money in our communities. And I'll give you an example. Just like a person who is getting ill and she doesn't have a responsible party, then she stops paying her taxes. That money provides public safety. That money provides taxes for the city and the counties. And we need to come up with very creative ways to help keep seniors safe, help keep revenue inflowing into our cities, and not have a hostile dependency on big government. As big government continues to take over different places that we are hurting, I think we as a community need to step forward and step up and try to come up with ways to help our cities be vital and sustain itself. Not short-term crisis, but long-term progressive thoughts. So I'm very much interested in small businesses.
I want to participate with the Concord Naval Weapons Station, but I think we also have to be very cautious in knowing that there's a lot that needs to be done out there, and we don't want to get stuck with something that's going to put more stress and more financial burden on the city of Concord. I'm very concerned about our Concord Pavilion. I think that the Concord Pavilion has been a horrible, neglected, and abandoned eyesore. That used to be one of the jewels of the city of Concord. After 32 years of participating at that Concord Pavilion with graduations of high schools, with memorial services for some of our firemen and police, we have abandoned that to contract providers who do not invest any money back into that property, and we need to step up and try to figure out creative ways to get that to put more money.
Amish?
Yeah, I'm Dr. Ramesh Kumar. I'm a psychologist. What I have been seeing in our cities, that the people, those who are really in need of the services, we have so much complicated and very complex and perplexing enforcement codes we use. There is so much bureaucracy we created, and there are so much complicated rules and regulations which even a PhD person cannot understand, what to talk about ordinary person. So my priorities are, because I started non-profit mental health agency from scratch, and I'm running my assisted living facilities, and with this economic times we are going through, I wanted to see that some of the things we are doing in plain English, that we are being kind of penny wise and pound foolish the way we spend our money right now. Our money is being spent. We have only 40% left in the city budget to spend on our infrastructure, providing services to the people. 60% of the money goes to our safety, meaning to the police department. And when we are spending already 60%, if you see the police chief report 2 days ago, he said we have 2 rapes every month, we have more than 40 robberies every month, we have more.
Okay, so what do you want to do?
What I want to do is, we want to make sure that those like homelessness, we are spending so much money on them, just getting them transporting from one place to another. We need to have transitional housing and the services for people. It will cost us less money than what we're spending right now on the police department and on the fire department. As you all know, more than 85% of our 911 calls, they are medical related calls. And when we have that kind of high percentage of calls medical related, we really need to think some creative ways and innovative ways to deal with this. And we have this weapon station coming up. It's going to take us 10 to 20 years to develop that. It's not immediate thing. We have a lot of existing infrastructure, as Tim said, in our city, and we need to develop those and bring more businesses. And we cannot bring more business if we have more rules and regulation for them, which are costing more and more and more, and less services for the people.
Okay, let me, before I go further, I forgot to do one thing. I'm gonna, if you would take one of my cards and pass them around, please.
And Dan, before you go further, I thought your question was, what is our primary motivation for running? You want to talk about economic development, unfunded liability, downtown?
Dan, we're going to get to all this.
Okay, all right.
Okay, but I would like you guys first to take my card. You'll see my email address on it. If you would please, this afternoon, in the next couple hours, if you please send me 1, your resume, 2, your website, 3, your contact number if we have any questions with your cell phone, please, that you'll be able to be reached this afternoon. 4, your list of endorsements. And the 5th thing I want is your email address, but presumably that'll come with it, right? So resume, website, contact number with cell, endorsements. Okay? I appreciate that. Okay, let's go the reverse. Let's start with you, Harmesh. I didn't hear any of you really talk about the status of the city budget, the employee negotiations that are currently going on, or the issues of the city's unfunded liabilities and budget constraints. I mean, I was surprised when we went around the whole room. Not one of you really mentioned that. Frankly, that's far greater in a certain way than any of the issues you raised, almost, with the exception of maybe the future of Concord Naval Weapons Station and its future implications. So, Harmesh, would you, first of all, start out and address the budget situation? You know, you've got a structural imbalance. Revenues have declined tremendously. Where you see priorities and what you see as the changes that are needed, if any, going forward?
Definitely, that's what I was saying, that 40% of our budget is already taken out for the safety, so-called safety of the community. And we have left only 40% to deal with these long-term liabilities, unfunded liabilities. And we need to have some creative ways to reduce our dependency on the police and get the community involved and create the awareness in the community. Once community knows this is how much we're spending and what we're getting, because everybody...
okay, well, tell you what. But what I want to know is, what are your solutions?
What are your creative ways?
Yeah. What my creative is, that's what I'm saying. We need to spend money on the well-being of the people, those who are running the city and employees, rather than putting money where it is not needed.
I'm sorry, say that again. You need to spend money on what?
On the welfare of the employees and the community and all the small businesses which are bringing the money to the city. We need to invest in them more.
And what would you give up?
We need to give up some of the funding we have been spending on the police department. There is no other way you could do that. We need to cut all the chase into this. That's the only way. Otherwise,
okay,
there is only 40%.
So how would you give up some of that spending on the police department? In what ways? Fewer officers, less benefits? What are you advocating?
We need to have, even though people are saying that we need to have more officers, I'm not against the police force. They are keeping us protected, but at the same time, they are costing us so much money. We need to make community aware of it, that this is where your money is going, and you need to think about some other ways how to deal with these safety issues. Does that make sense?
Yep. Suzanne.
Okay, real simple. I have an ABC formula that's accountability, balance, and making corrections. And right now, labor negotiations with the Concord Police Department are going on. And Chief gave an excellent presentation at the last council meeting, but one of the things that was neglected is how are we going to replace 51% of the outgoing senior police officers with new officers. There needs to be a mentoring program. The police department should have someone being mentored in either like a reserve program with the police department, have them training, learning how to do the job with
All right, I'm going to cut you off with all due
Sure.
respect, Suzanne.
Yeah.
Because we're going to keep this moving along.
Sure.
I hear that's an interesting policy problem. It's interesting. It doesn't go straight to the budget issues I asked about. Can you go right to the budget issues I asked about?
Okay.
Please?
The budget issue that I would first attack is where is all this money going out to? And as Kumar said, it's 60% to safety. So that has to be reorganized.
How so?
One of the things that I wanted to talk to the chief about was how to put in a program where you can actually have a teaching, mentoring program where an office or a person from a school, after they completed the program, would come in and do an internship. We have unpaid internships going on all over at all various different kinds of
And how does that save you money?
Saves us money because you're not actually taking another full paid officer from someplace else. You're actually having somebody come in, do the internship, and that is not a paid position.
Are you
It could be a
suggesting
half
police
paid.
force by internship?
No. I'm saying that they should maybe have like a reserve program where they are getting a percentage of a salary. So that could be like interns, reserve, whatever would help bring in students and maybe have half the income for their salary, and then they work toward a full-time position that's paid.
Okay. Vernon?
Right now, I know we're in labor negotiations with the city, and I know they've been taking a lot of cuts to the employees. So I know they've dug in their heels, and And I can understand that, you know, my wife, same thing, she works in the private sector and she hasn't had a raise in 4 years. In fact, she's taken cuts, having to pay for her own medical, having to do no bonuses. So everybody's been hit hard. So, but they've been sitting here, from what I understand, they've been taking a beating for the last 4 years. So I'm sure they're going to ask for something this time around. I know Measure Q helped us with the budget, but that's going to be running out. But what I've seen is our budget's going to be pretty well balanced within the next 3 years. So I believe it's balanced now, but it's Measure Q that's helping us with that. As far as the police force goes, there probably are ways that we can get help maybe with the traffic, train some people to take care of
traffic.
You know, like when we have events going on, you see police everywhere. Maybe that could be volunteer people that have been trained where, you know, they can help with the, I guess not traffic, the crowd control and things like that. Maybe that would help with the budget. We are going to be having a lot of police retiring, so that would be a way of training people to pick up maybe some of these things where we don't actually need an officer there. We could have somebody that's trained. It doesn't make maybe as much money as that officer, but can do a lot of the jobs, like help out at the school. I know we've had to cut back at the schools. They used to have an officer on each campus. Now I believe they have one covering 3, 4 schools. Maybe have somebody that can be trained that can do that job, and it's trained that they can handle that kind of a thing.
Tim?
So I think, realistically, we do have a few things that are going to have to get worked out, not only this year with our internal city employees, and I know those conversations are going on right now. We're going to have to figure out how to manage our pensions, how to be able to still afford them the benefits, so that we can, kind of work on some of those.
How would you do that?
Unfunded liabilities that we're going to have to deal with.
How would you do that?
I think we're just going to have to have that realistic conversation. Unfortunately, from my standpoint, at this very moment, no, I can't sit across the table because those negotiations are going on without me. But I think I would like to see that we're having a realistic conversation, that everyone understands that, hey, you know what, we haven't made it out of the hole yet. And as long as everyone can be realistic and understand that, hey, hopefully everyone can see that would you be better off making sure that everyone is able to keep their jobs and start firing people. So you know what, if we have to continue at freezing positions, we might not be able to rehire, we might not be able to offer any kind of raises at this moment in time. That's just something that we're going to have to deal with as a reality. But I think as long as everyone understands that, and then
I'm boring.
Okay.
Tell me what it is you would specifically support doing.
I would support at this point continuing that if we are unable to afford being able to give back that 5%, then that's give back that 5% that we had to take back from city employees. That's something we might have.
You're talking about the furloughs.
The furloughs, if we have to.
And those aren't the police furloughs, right?
No, those are not police furloughs.
Okay, you're talking about give back for general employees.
Yes.
Okay.
And right now, only because we're in negotiations with them.
Okay.
The police conversations, those are going to happen in 2014.
Right.
Of course, with AB 340, now in terms of the pensions, those are going to be readdressed, and so that's going to create.
That will be for a new tier.
That will be for new tiers, but that's going to also kind of create, what long-term approach on what our budget's going to look like in the future. But I think, other things though overall is managing our overtime. Are we being as efficient, as effective as we can internally? Are we leveraging the technology that we need so that our costs are brought down? And that's really what it comes down to, I think.
Do you think that they're not managing it efficiently?
I think that what's happening is that there might be some new technologies that are trying to come on board, but I don't think that departments are properly communicating with each other like they should. You shouldn't have to go to 3 departments to do basically the same thing. And that comes back to how are we making it easier for businesses to do business with the city of Concord? Well, at the same time, how is, that's also costing us more if someone has to go to 3 places to do one thing. Okay? So that's what it comes down to, is finding those operational efficiencies that need to exist. And if 3 people are doing the job to process, one application, why are we?
I thought Concord was the model of efficiency.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
you know what? We're continuing to make it better. We've got some technology pieces that are starting to be implemented, but we need to make sure that we're doing a better job of that.
Eddie?
Okay, first, I had addressed unfunded liabilities when I talked about the city council and its medical plans. As
Okay.
a certain Dan...
You did, that's
Right.
true.
Okay.
But I'm looking
So,
more globally at city
now,
council.
on a more globally
Yeah.
method, when I had a meeting with the executive board of the police union, I mentioned two dirty words: pension reform. I'm not endorsed by the police union. We need pension reform. I believe that the current bill structure that came out of Sacramento gives us certain opportunities, but there are opportunities that exist right now. We shouldn't have to wait till 2016, 2018 to bring it in. The change in the from away from 3 to 50 can be done and should be done in the next round of negotiations. I believe also that we need to...
What do you mean, the change away from 3 to 50 for new employees or for all employees?
I would like to see it for all employees, to the
How would you
extent that
do
we're
that?
allowed to
How would you
legally.
deal with that and the vested rights?
To the extent that we have legality. All right, we have to negotiate what we can, but we have a golden opportunity, as was pointed out. 50% of our staff is leaving. So the new staff that's coming in, we can greatly reduce our liabilities. Additionally, the medical coverage, the medical benefits, which is a growing and massive amount, also applies to our safety officers and our other people in the PERS program. We need to change that. We have to look at San Diego for possible pay reduction. It's not very happy in the police department for the sworn officers, but as a matter of fact, when we had our 5-year budget review, the only department that has more money than it did 5 years ago is the police department, which reflects not the excellent quality of what we do, which is, but it reflects the political power of the police executive board. And we need to break that. We need to have realistic, sustainable efforts. I also believe, and I would love to see, a change in our very structure of pensions so that the lowest of us do have defined benefits so that they can benefit. And there has to be a relationship between civil service and the community. And you cannot have people retiring making 4 times the average amount of what the working people in the city currently. But the lower paid, yes, I don't want someone who cleans the streets of Todos Santos for 20 years to be on poverty row. But at the same time, I don't want a police chief or a police captain making $500,000 or $250,000. There's got to be a relationship. The people who join our police department are dedicated and sworn, but they didn't do it for the money.
Carol?
Wow. I spoke at great length with Tom Wentling, the treasurer of the city of Concord, and because I have to tell you the budget's very confusing for me in a sense. I do plan on studying it a lot more and listening to everybody, learning a lot more about it because I am a rookie at all this. But I believe in attrition at this moment in time, like a couple people mentioned. Don't bring anybody else on to the structure at this moment. Use from within. The pension, like everybody else, the pension plans have to be looked at. The top heavy, like Eddie just said, has got to be looked at. People that go into public service should not go into it feeling that they're going to be making a lot of money or they're going to end up becoming rich and all that jazz. It's just turned that way. We've slowly watched it, those of us that have been in town for a long, long, long time. I do believe after talking to Tom that the city of Concord's doing very well, basically as far as the budget goes, other than what the state did to us and other cities. I personally would love to look into what the state... How do you think
the budget compares to 4 years ago?
I think it's slowly progressing. Is that all?
Yeah.
Oh.
Dan?
I understand your comment about structural imbalance. Actually, I think the budget is pretty well balanced, and I think that our surplus that comes in every year will be applied to that small bit. But I'd like to, as you say, let's look at something specific. Let's look at our downtown. Our downtown, when we had redevelopment, we were putting $230,000 a year into the downtown. We showed, we got some good businesses going down there. And so the question is, what's going to happen now? Where are you going to get the money? One of the plans I think that has merit is a PBID, a property-based business improvement district, where you assess just the business.
We're going to get. We can go to redevelopment. I really want you to focus strictly. If you want general fund budget, I really want to understand. You know,
I think the budget is essentially balanced. You say your position is it is structurally imbalanced. I will agree with that, but I'm also saying that we every year we have a surplus, and so it'll be balanced by the end of the year.
Okay, well, basically the budget is down, if I'm correct, about $20 million over the last 4 or 5 years.
Yes.
Is that about the right number?
19.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
I mean, we've cut a few officers, and we've cut a lot of other city staff. If I'm correct, if I'm,
25%.
you know,
there's no question that they've
and
cut city
I
staff.
guess my question is, are you happy? Is that the status quo we're going to maintain, or you know? I mean, what are the trade-offs and priorities here?
You know, Dan, you're. I want to understand your question. You started with a structurally imbalanced budget, and I'm saying that it primarily is structurally balanced.
Okay.
Now, if you want to know specific things about that, I'll be happy to respond because I have answers. I'm not happy with the city staff being cut, no. But we're in tough economic times. This lasted a long time, you know that. And you don't need me to talk about the difficult economic times. But we are coming out of that. We're coming out of that slowly. But in the meantime, how are you going to continue the things you want to do? So the example that I picked was the downtown because we have a plan for that. And I want to talk about how we're going to make up the deficit in the budget. And one of the ways we make up the deficit in the budget is by finding other ways to provide the services that we need. Now for economic development, and I chose the downtown because I think it is a very specific area. We have some good ideas for that, and it has to do with the property-based business improvement district. You know, the idea we're in negotiations with 2 groups right now. Local 29, our business professional people, and the Teamsters. And obviously, the police don't come up till 2014. And we're very unhappy that we're not going to be able to give them an increase in pay. I would love to be able to improve city finances. To me, the way to do that is to get the property from the Navy, to lease it out, provide a long-term source of income, and not sell it. But you know, you said bore in on something, so I'm trying to bore in and point out that with the PBID, we can raise $380,000 a year. That can finance all of our downtown area, and we can do some great things. So we can bring in another a couple more coffee shops or whatever we need to raise revenue, and that's how we do it. Now you can pick any area you want to pick, and we're working on plans to improve areas that. No one's happy with the situation. You know, there are fewer people serving now on the city staff than served when I served previously, and so we lost something with that.
Okay. I appreciate it, Dan. Thanks. Let me ask you, Marnie, same question.
So, looking at our city budget and looking at ways that we can improve what you say is a structural imbalance, I think that the city has done, given, as Dan said, the economic times, that they have done a lot of good to try, and we've seen a lot of cuts where employees are now doing 2 or 3 jobs, and I think this is the same way across American business. But I do think by partnering better with our small business owners and getting them to look at some of the services that we're providing and how we can partner with them to do it better is going to create better efficiencies. A lot of what we've done, we've put in a lot of policies and a lot of public safety, but that hasn't resulted in better processes. And we need better operational processes by really, you know, looking at them a little bit closer. I think the city, we had 9.8 million, now they believe there's going to be 9.6 million in property tax revenue. You know, that's a surprise, and we have to react to that. And I think, given the changes that have occurred, they've done a good job in trying to keep it balanced. But I do believe that we need to look at some of these issues, particularly with public safety, because that is a huge spend. And then this is part of the problem of going last. As some of the other candidates have stated, we have a huge amount that is retiring. I do know that our volunteer police force has gone up in terms of those that are participating, and there's a goal to increase that volunteer participation. And I think that's a really good sign that we're on a good track.
Tell you what, let me tag on to what you just said, and you'll go first, going this way now. How's that? Okay.
How about in the middle?
It gets too confusing for my notes. I'm sorry.
I've got 5 kids.
It's the random draw, the way the elections office puts you guys down.
He's getting old. He can't read.
I can't cope with it. You know. Seriously. I'd like you to address the trade-off, each of you. Currently, none of the city employees pay their full pension. And there's their full share of the employee share of their pension. There's a subsidy and it differs depending on whether it's police or it's general miscellaneous employees.
Mm-hmm.
That is a cost to the city 2 ways. One is it's an expenditure straight out. The city must pay to the employee to pick up the employee share, in addition to the share they're paying of pensions. The portion that they pay also counts as income when it comes time for them to calculate their pensions, if everybody follows that. That is a trade-off of an expense against other expenses that we've talked about that have had to be cut. Could you address your analysis of that trade-off, and whether you think
the trade-off between
whether you think the employer paying a portion of the employee's typical share of their pensions, both for police and for general employees, should continue.
Let me clarify this 1 second for my understanding of it. What you are saying, suppose I'm buying the insurance and I'm paying the deductible from my pocket.
No.
So they are not paying the deductible. That's what you're saying?
No.
Oh.
What I'm saying is that when pensions are funded each year, there's an employee share, there's a larger generally employer share. In the city of Concord, the city pays not only an employer share, but it pays a portion, I believe it's about half for police and a little bit more, or a little bit less for miscellaneous, of the employee share as well. That has 2 effects. That takes money out of the general fund that could go elsewhere, and the portion that they pay of the employee share increases the pensionable income that's used when the employees retire, when they calculate their pensions, because that is counted as income for the employees when they go to CalPERS to calculate their pensions, so that drives up your future pension costs.
So what is the percentage we're talking about, according to you?
The percentage is of the employee share is 7 or 8% of payroll, depending on for general, and it's 9% of payroll for police. And then the city's share on top of that varies. It's generally for police around, and I don't know exactly what the city's is, but it's usually around 28% of payroll. I don't know if the city's is quite that high, but that's the average statewide for CalPERS. And for miscellaneous, I'm not sure what the city's is. It depends on the formula, but it can be anywhere from 8 to 16 to 20.
Okay, so if I
and it's a percentage of payroll.
And if I understand you correctly, your concern is the trade-off between the two in terms of what are we giving
up.
Well,
I want to understand what you see is how you see the trade-off and what you see as your priority.
Well, I think that we should be investing in our public service employees. I do believe we should be doing that. They've given to the city, and I do believe they should be, compensated in the long term for their public service. I do have a concern about the portion that where the calculation is done by CalPERS, in which that amount counts towards their income. That is a concern that should be addressed because of what it means for future liabilities for the city.
What you're talking about, Dan, of course, is unfunded liability. And right now, the the last 2 years, the city of Concord negotiated that all medical increases would be 50% paid by the employee. Now, that has done this. We've gone from an unfunded liability of $47 million to an unfunded liability of $35.7 million, which means we've reduced the unfunded liability $12 million.
On your OPEB.
I'm sorry?
On your OPEB, on your medical retirement.
Yes, right. Yeah. Now, what we need to do is to, and by the way, we do have a plan for that, and that unfunded liability will be paid for, stretched over a 40-year period. You're talking about the other areas. We need to look at those. We need to be realistic about what we can do in our meet and confer and negotiations with the employee groups to cut down this unfunded liability. It is a problem. It's on my mind. It needs to be addressed. We need to make some hard choices. I understand that, and I'm prepared to do that.
Do you want to tell me how?
When we get into negotiations, then I can tell you how. Right now, we are involved in two of the issues, which are close hold because the material that I'm being given is in a closed session and it's not available for any publication. But it's on. We're trying to address it and to cut down as much as we can. We've got to cut down more.
Carol?
Again, damn, wow. I haven't studied that deeply about this issue, but the staff, again, I'm going to reiterate, the worker bees, I feel, shouldn't be cut much more. If that can happen, and the admin needs to be looked at, I feel, dealing with some of that through the Historical Society. There's just a lot of money that's put out for people that are, city managers, general managers, lawyers, all that it's taking now to be in politics. I would really, the percentage that they have to pay, that the city pays, I'm going to again go back to the point that if you're being hired as a public servant or to work for government, I don't think that you should expect that much in return. Enough to live nicely or comfortably when you retire. But I also think that you have to put in several years for that, not just a few. So.
Danny?
First you have to lead by example. And that's why it has to start at the city council giving up its medical lifetime, because that's a massive unfunded liability just for 5 people. As you know, we have a 62-year-old mayor who's the same age as me, which your paper indicated had a $750,000 unfunded liability.
Actually, this portion was $550, but that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Right.
We have people in their 40s, we have people in their 50s. We have to give this up. This leads the way. Of the $35 million of unfunded liability, if you take into account just the city council, we have a pretty big, heavy effect just for 5 people, potential. As for the issue of I'll call the 9%, all right, my basic view is for the lowest paid amongst us, or those, to make it easier, if you make less than the city average of the population, we shouldn't mess with them. If you make more than the city average, then yes, your contribution should be upwards of the whole 9%. I understand the problem of income, but part of that relates to rules that are beyond the scope of our reach. But that gets answered.
So you would means test the pickup.
Right.
Yeah.
Furthermore, I would also look at solving the problem from the back end. In other words, why is the 9% a problem? All right. Well, it's because we're using the salaries at the high end. What if instead of using the last 3 years, we use your lifetime salaries?
Well, CalPERS won't let you do that.
Well, CalPERS, maybe the solution may be to get out of CalPERS. All right, I'm not adverse to looking at that situation. I'm not adverse to seeing if we can get a section of the city to go to a 401k or something else. We can't be bullied by a monopoly on the pensions of our people that's going to be detrimental to the entire city. I don't want to have to lay off a cop in order to pay for a cop that's 60 years old and making 3 times the salary of the average person in the city. That's not what government service is.
Thank you. Tim?
I think there are a lot of people when they go to work for the government, even though it's a public service, at the end of the day, it's still a business, okay? And in a lot of cases, a lot of people go to work for the city of Concord because, you know what, they might not be making that exorbitant salary they might in the private sector, but the backside is they have those benefits to rely on that they might not get in the private sector. So there's a little bit of a give and take there, okay? So I feel that when you attack someone that's making $35,000 a year and you ask them to maybe take 5% or give another 5% to a pension, that is huge to a working family, okay? And it's a lot different when you're having that conversation with management level people that they're making $120,000 a year. That is far different impact on that individual family, okay? And so I think something to the effect that needs to be looked at and addressed more. And we need to be very mindful of
means testing idea?
I think that actually has some merit to it. And I think something around those lines where, you know, at different levels, depending on what we set as employee tiers, something we need to look at. And it might be just
employee tiers, I'm sorry?
Just different job classifications, different type of job codes.
How would you feel about second tier for cops?
That's something we're probably going to have to address at this point, especially with AB 340. It's going to require us to now have a second tier that's going to have to be negotiated, and it's something that, you know, both
Actually,
sides
doesn't
might
even
not
give
be
you the option to negotiate it.
It pretty much doesn't give the option.
Yeah.
Here it is. Okay, now let's start talking about it. Okay, what are some things that we can do? And it's one of those. It's a reality that we're gonna have to deal with, good or bad. I mean, realistically, I think they understand where that's going to come from, and so when the time comes, they understand at least what our starting point is going to look like. But at least it does put us in a good
would you come
financial
back
position.
to my original, the employer pickup of employee share?
I think that realistically, I don't think it's too much to ask the city to pick up the employee portion because of these people doing a job for the city and why they decided to work for the city to begin with.
So you should. So the pickup should continue.
So the pickup should continue. It's fine. In terms of what the split should be, yeah, we should continue to negotiate that. I'm not going to tell you there's a perfect answer, there's a perfect percentage at this point in time. And like Dan said, those are being negotiated right now. But I think we still should continue the employee pickup. And I don't think that's unfair to go down that road.
Vernon?
Yeah, mine's going to be a lot simpler. I just don't think if the city can afford an unfunded liability, we shouldn't be doing it. I mean, I think it should be negotiated out. I like what Eddie was saying, different ways of doing that. But it should be worked out. The city shouldn't be carrying a burden for 10 years, 20 years down the road like that. So somewhere along the lines, you gotta find a compromise to make sure that the city can handle that if times ever go bad again. If I understood the question.
Suzanne?
I think that we need to really examine our city employees have already taken huge cuts. I do not believe that we should take any more away from them. They're told to do more with less, and then they have city managers who are getting an extra $40,000 increase in their pay. When you look at higher ups getting increases and you're asking those below to take more and more cuts, I think that's an unfair expectation to put on our city employees. I think that with our police and with our city employees, there should be a second tier, and I think that it should be. I think it's a fair request in this economic recession to ask in negotiations for a 50-50 split. That of the pension. So
Of
you're
the
asking
total pension cost or of the employee share?
of the employee share, so that the employees should contribute, and that they should also have the city.
Or do you really have close to 50-50 split now?
With current employees, I think that that's something that was promised, and I think that that should be continued.
Okay. I just want to make sure
But
we're
the second tier
defining.
should be a different formula.
Amish?
Yeah, I think we do need to look beyond this. Some of the things are so extraneous and they are so, as I said earlier, complicated. I'm so happy that our president is addressing the health care needs of the Americans, all of us. If we have a proper universal healthcare system in our country, most of these OPEC we're talking about, and with half-cent increase in the sales tax, we brought $9 million additional funds last year with half-cent increase. And most of our city leaders have been talking about that they are so helpless, they are so hopeless, the state is coming and taking away our money. There are ways, creative.
Okay, but I asked a specific question having to do with trade-offs on a specific issue.
I was going to go
Yeah,
there.
can you go right to
Yeah,
that?
I think I agree with Eddie's thing that it has to be mean tested, and the people those who are working at the lower end of the strata, and they are putting more hours. Maybe we should connect them with the kind of like in the private sector. Sometimes they do compensatory time, and that maybe we need to have those kind of creative ideas and think about compensatory time for the police, compensatory time for different tiers of the employees.
Folks, I guess the one question that we haven't talked about, and we should just go right through real quickly, is, just kind of your view on the Concord Naval Weapons Station, since that's the, and we're going to make that the final question. Harmesh, what do you see as the issues that need to be considered? We sort of touched on it in the opening. Dan's talked about it. Eddie's talked about it.
Clarification.
Yeah.
When you say Concord Naval Weapons Station, do you mean the inland portion, the 5,000 acres, or are you also including the
You can
tidal
expand
area,
it.
which is the Army?
You define your terms,
Which
and
one?
you handle it however you see
Either one.
best.
Oh,
Okay.
Okay, I mean, I want to get your sense of, we've got this massive area out there that's clear, I want to hear specifics of, just real concisely what you think should happen and what are the issues that going forward. We obviously know that there's been a lot that's already been done, but what do you see are the key issues that you'd be concerned about that you're going to be watching? And just keep it very succinct, please. I don't want a treatise on the Concord Naval Weapons Station. Okay? Okay. Because we're going to be out of time unless we'll be here all afternoon. Yeah.
In my candidate statement, I did mention about the Concord Naval Weapons Station, that this is a golden opportunity for our city to be able to sustain ourselves in the future, in the times to come, and our younger generation to depend upon the sustainable income we could get from there. So my thoughts on that, because if I have gone to European countries and I have seen how they have developed these transportation hubs, and how they have developed the business on the transportation hub, which pays, bring the cash into community services, and they have affordable housing around that, which we have worked very hard with the public participation already in the city, to have affordable housing, have a business hub there, and to have companies, those who are green companies, those who won't pollute us more than what we are already polluted. And there's so much innovation going on right now in the world, and we could attract those companies with some kind of incentives from the city, and that's where I think we could make huge investment in the future on the Concord Naval Weapons Station. Whatever around that North Concord Bus Station, if we could develop some cluster of low density homes and also affordable housing and also senior housing there, and develop a business like Dublin has done, like other cities are doing. If we could develop that kind of system, our planning codes has to match with our day-to-day functioning. And right now our planning code don't match with the day-to-day functioning. We have to go to get our basic necessities in the car. And we need to have something where we could have all those things in the area we're living in. And that area is right now, looking at it, that is the best area in the city where we could really plan smartly and also provide the services people need on a day-to-day basis.
Suzanne?
I'd like to see a more progressive middle-class housing put up there versus a lot of low income, only because I
Isn't
think
that issue, aren't we past that issue though?
I-
haven't we pretty much decided the type of housing that's gonna go in there?
It's a
I mean,
cluster.
Yeah.
isn't that the debate of 6 years ago?
it's still a debate that I think will continue with a lot of different people.
Okay,
But
go ahead.
I'm just saying that I know.
I mean,
that
I'm just asking, is
Yeah.
this still on the table? I thought the mix was pretty much
the
determined.
mix is determined, but I don't think that you should just shut all the doors. I know that they're talking about having the Hayward Cal State participate up there. I think that there should be consideration for ways to develop businesses up there. It should be something that is going to be progressive and income producing and not just a low income sprawl that takes over the city of Concord. I want to see something good come out of the Concord Naval Weapons Station. I don't want to see more money being sucked out of the city as it is today.
Vernon?
I know a lot of it has already been planned out, low housing, senior part of it. So like I said, the one thing I want to make sure is the old Concord doesn't become the old Concord. I wanted to make sure it stays as Concord.
I'm sorry, say that again?
I want to make sure it stays Concord, not an old Concord, a new Concord. Get the people that live over there say, oh, we live in New Concord and we have an old Concord. I want to make sure that flow stays an even flow, that it's just one large community and it doesn't become two different entities. It doesn't become a city upon itself out there. I want to make sure, like I said, that the old part of Concord doesn't become the old part of Concord. That it,
You want it to be a part of the current Concord community that's integrated well?
absolutely, I want it integrated so people don't feel that.
So you don't want to be Antioch?
Well,
Thank you.
There's
Thank
a
you.
lot of cities that are like
Yes.
that. That one becomes a new part and the other one becomes the old
Get
part.
to it.
Good.
Exactly, and I don't want to end up like that, and it happens all the time. And I want to make sure that okay, we're going to invest a lot of money here. I want to make sure we invest a lot of money in the part of Concord that already exists. The community that's in Concord right now doesn't get lost in that new project. And I think that's really important. I know it's important to the neighbors that are already living on the other side of Concord Avenue. I know that they're really concerned because a lot of the reasons why they moved there was because they knew they had the base there, nothing would ever be built there. And that was part of the selling point when they bought those homes. I don't live there, but I know when I was looking for a house in Concord 23 years ago, when I go to houses there, that'd be the first thing they would say, hey, don't worry, they'll never build there. Well, now they're building there. So that community has to be addressed. And I know they have been, but I think ground hasn't been broken yet. And once it does, it seems like everything hits the fan again. So I just want to make sure that they're heard. And like I said, that our businesses out here basically don't suffer from the new area that's going to be.
Tim?
A few things to kind of point out is we had the reuse plan. Yes, we did kind of decide, hey, where we'd like to see things go. The other thing, we did update the development code to make it a little easier on where things go, how things can go as well. So I think the city's taken some good steps to now actually dive in and do some more with this Concord Naval Weapons Station. The things to, I think, point out is, you know what, the affordable housing pieces, we've discussed those were, all of those pieces will come to fruition once we start actually breaking ground on some of that commercial mixed use around the transit-oriented development that is going to be key to see how that site builds out. The pieces, though, that I think are opportunities that we need to start addressing right now is what kind of commercial development in that flex area that we can start doing more with, and we need to start bringing people to the table. I was kind of talking earlier about some of the emerging technologies. What type of businesses can locate there that will also have other ancillary businesses to support them and to start bringing jobs in there. We have the educational center piece that we're looking to continue to keep on the table, but I think we need to make sure we keep them at the table and not, tell them, okay, we'll make a decision right now. It's like, you know what? Probably 10 years out, let's be realistic about this, but we want to at least continue those conversations and not run people off trying to tell them, make a decision, tell us what you want to do right now. We understand that budgets are what they are. For goodness sakes, we don't even have a single plot of land that's been handed over yet. So let's continue to, have people at the table, keep our planning partners together, and don't run people off. And that's really important, because I feel like some people are trying to get ahead of themselves with how this is getting planned out, and we need to continue to make sure that, hey, what are the opportunities that can exist? No, we're not going to try to maybe go out and find a biotech firm to locate there, because that might not be what's gonna end up be viable for that specific site. But there are other technologies that could very easily go there. We have a good labor pool. The cost of housing makes sense in Concord. Businesses will locate there. We just have to make sure we go out and be proactive about it.
Eddie, what do you see as the issues?
Okay, first let's take...
You're welcome to expand it.
Okay, first let's take the tidal area. As background, I am on the Tidal and the Inland Restoration Advisory Board, one for the Army, one for the Navy. I've been there for quite a few years. We're dealing with the cleanups and other issues related. Also,
you're on which committees, I'm sorry?
The Restoration Advisory Board, both at RAB, part of the BRAC base realignment and closure for both the Army and the Navy. As I was saying, additionally, I'm in the maritime business. I am the only one over here who has ever shipped ammunition and explosives out of Port Chicago, the base. I'm an expert in containerization styles of ammunition and explosives in the maritime, and it's an ongoing basis. I fully support the decision that base, the Army base, is a vital part of our national security, and it is, without a doubt, the largest ammunition port on the West Coast and cannot be replaced in that size. I support the Navy's expansion to get an extra couple of feet of water on the docks, move the dock out, and the $200 million investment on rail infrastructure and there, which will bring jobs to our city and also continue the long history of Concord support for the national security of this country. As for the inland area, the inland area has currently what's called the village plan. That was the final plan which was going, as opposed to a more open space plan, which is what I advocated. We lost. However, the fundamental underpinning of the entire reuse plan was, as stated by both Michael Wright and Dan Keene, was that it was part of a redevelopment program. That was the way the city was going to finance the entire operation. It was stated repeatedly by both Michael Wright and Dan Keene, our previous manager, that without the redevelopment plan, everything comes apart. Now, I believe that this gives us a certain realistic view. I originally had proposed that we take the base and we do it in sections, starting from the BART station going down, and so that we can roll it and do the refinancing and we can see what works and doesn't work before we go. I believe at this current point, we need to get back to that. I think that there are innovative ways to finance it, including leased land. I would like to use what was currently the solar...
Am I understand what you're saying is because the redevelopment agency is one way, you've got a big problem there.
We got a big financial problem on how we do this. We need innovation. One of the aspects that I always was opposed, and I think I was the only one to make it very vocal, is I'm opposed to the villages that will require making 4 lanes on Deckinger and West, totally destroying those neighborhoods. We don't need more empty houses for residents in our city. We need the jobs. So let's concentrate on making the north side work by the BART station, where we're talking about a university, we're talking about light industry, we're talking other things. Start there. Use our innovations, whether it be leased land. I would like to see a solar park set up on Bunker City, which is where the villages would be. And that would generate electricity, generate income, and provide something which this city doesn't have, which is a reliable source independent for power. So we can run our city and have something going. The other advantage of the solar park...
Okay, let me let you get you to wrap up, though.
The other advantage there is it puts a section of land sort of like in mothball. And we could always rip up the solar panels in 20 years, 30 years, and you got the land. All right. So the sections of the two bases, one, leave the base on the Army side alone, and on the Navy side, the inland portion, let's start at the BART station and go down. I'm totally opposed to allowing a single developer. I want the Navy to clean it up so that we can have more funds. One of the most horrifying concepts was that there was a plan to sell it all to Sino, let him clean up the environment. All right? That's absurd. The Navy poisoned the land. The Navy needs to clean it up. Once we clean it up, we have more people we can sell the land to, because there's only 2 or 3 companies that can handle a polluted, toxic area. That's where I stand.
Carol?
Okay. I was involved when we were planning, when the city was planning the naval station at the very beginning, and I personally was really happy with the plan that was passed by everyone who was happy with the open space and what went on. And then I don't understand it completely, I guess, but the Navy pulled the rug out for some reason, so all that stopped. I guess it was economic times too. But my main concern is the pollution of those bunkers. And at the age I'm at and friends I've had that have lived here forever, there's cancers popping up all over the place. I'm in the health business anyhow, and I'm very, very, very concerned about the quality of the air once this gets rolling. And I don't know whether it'll be in my service time on the council, but a lot of time, a lot of taxpayers' dollars have been spent on this already, and I'll be curious to see how it unfolds.
Dan?
I've been involved with the weapons station property since 2004, when I served on the Governor's Committee and then the Citizens Committee, the plan. The Navy's on the hook to clean up the property. They're going to have to clean it up, all contaminants known and unknown, and that's by law, so that's not a problem. What I would like to see, and by the way, we can't sit here and tell you how the property is going to be developed. It's as the Navy releases the parcels to the city of Concord, and that will determine how things happen. For the commercial part, my position is that I would like to see the city acquire it as economically as possible. I think 90-10 would be good. Pay the Navy 10%, we'll take 90. And do what the city of Fairfield did. They called in Taubman when he wanted to build a shopping center, and they said, we just bought the land. They bought it the day before. We'll lease you the land. You give us a long-term, income. Stanford University, when Palo Alto was, every time a property came up, they bought it. They now have billions of dollars to run the university. Hawaii, for a long time, you had to lease the property. To me, if you give the city a large chunk of money, it's going to be spent, and I'm concerned about that. I would rather have the property, the commercial property, leased so that we have a long-term source of income, so we don't have to have a Measure Q that bails us out. And I also, on part of the land, we have over 70% will not be built on, but you could put a sports complex there. The idea, De La Salle wins a championship, where do you play the game? Southern California. I'd like to see it played Northern California. I'd like to see a great sports complex here so that we can have it up here. And this is something that I've dreamed about. I really don't want to get into the title part right now. I'd be happy to discuss it with you later at length. I really feel that I'm an expert on this. The only person that I'll admit that knows more about this property is Michael Wright. He knows more about it than I do. But there's Afghanistan is going to phase out. The Navy doesn't want the property. Instead it's excess to their needs. That's why we got it in the first place. You have an Army battalion, transportation battalion. You have 3 to 5 ships a year landing there. It's a gross underutilization of public land. We need it. Put a containerized cargo, call it the Port of Concord, and then have a recapture clause for Department of Defense. If you have a war, God help us, then you can have the base back for whatever purposes for a period of time that we want it back. This to me would be great, and I'd like to be a part of this. And I have to be part of the political process because that's the way it's going to be solved. It's never going to be solved any other way. And I remember in the Pentagon, we argue with the Navy. We argue more with the Marines because they're more stubborn. But it's not going to. It's not going to be resolved. Are you a Marine?
I'm the son of a Marine.
Okay.
He's 83, and you better not call him a former Marine.
Okay, but
He'll kick your
for you,
butt.
I will tell you, I love Marines. And the reason I love Marines is because they will fight. You never worry about a Marine. That Marine will fight, and God bless them for that. And we'll go back to the subject. But I really think that we should have a Port of Concord, and this would be terrific. And then if the Department of Defense needs it, they will have a state-of-the-art, upgraded, containerized cargo port that can be used for something. But as I said, I don't want to talk about that.
Fair enough. Marnie?
The Concord Naval Weapons Station is a crown jewel for the future of Concord. We are attracting more and more based upon our multi-dwelling units. We bring small families, first-time buyers into our community that rent here because they want to take a look at our neighborhoods, they want to be associated with the community, and then we lose a lot in terms of them buying in other places. Because I agree with Dan that there's not some of the sports complexes that Walnut Creek or San Ramon or Pleasant or Dublin or some of these other communities have developed. There's not some of the community services. There's not some of the retail and commercial development.
So what would you do?
I would look at that when we're developing it, but we're spending a ton of time and energy around multiple study, red tape. We need to get moving forward, and it's very concerning to me that the planning representative is saying, "Hey, we're 10 to 20 years away." I don't think that's going to be satisfactory for our community. Individuals are going to give up on it. We're going to lose our energy. I think there's been a lot of good work done, and as Dan pointed out, it started in 2004. To expect individuals to wait until 2025 to see some return on that work is, I think, very unfair, and it's damaging to us as a community.
You haven't dealt with the federal government much, have you?
I'm a U.S. Armed Forces Reserve, so I've done a lot of work in government service, and I understand it takes a long time, but what are we doing as a city to, pressure and move forward?
Folks, thank you very much. I very much appreciate it.